Good morning, happy Monday, peace, love, and blessings to everyone out there. This video titled is the correct way to have sex. Now, before you get the wrong impression, this is not a video about technique or sexual orientation. This is a video for everyone across all orientations, races, and sexually mature ages. Hell, even for the young impressionable teenagers out there, because they could be feeling some of the ways I'm going to highlight in this video and are able to make a change of, course and direction, because someone is actually breaking this down to them. Now, we're talking about the best way to approach sex as an individual. Now, like I said, this video isn't really targeted to the healthy-minded people who are having healthy sexual relationships in their lives and understand their self-worth and self-value. This is for mostly the men and women who could have been emotionally traumatized or don't understand that their high sex drive could be an interpretation of addiction or escapism, right? Now, like I said, sex can be addictive, especially with all the endorphins and pleasure sensors that are lighting up inside your brain. But also, whether it's a long held bond you have with a partner or a mutual sex friend, or if it's just no strings attached sex, there is always an emotional attachment and exchange of energy between you and the other person. So you really want to be mindful that you're not coming from a toxic place with your sexual energy. And also you want to recognize that someone else might not be in the most healthiest place with their sexual energy as well, because you can be the healthiest and enlightened and self-loving person, but having that emotional contract, that emotional bond with someone during the act of intimacy and sex, it could fuck up your own shit as well, right? Now, so what we're going to do now, and in most times, we leave imprints of ourselves on the other, which should make you more vigilant of whom you have sex with. If bodily diseases aren't a good enough reason, that's something that you could think about, because someone could be transferring their addiction or their self-loathing or their suicidal thoughts or whatever it could be, even their broke mentality, into you by simply trading bodily fluids and being in that moment with you. Now, but let's get back to us as individuals, because that's whom you should really consider first and foremost, is yourself and how you are, your inner mechanisms emotionally, and also how you are moving throughout the world and how you affect people. I've learned that the path of self-discovery shouldn't be made with a pile of bodies in the path behind you, with so many casualties, right? And so we really want to take the time to check in with ourselves and govern ourselves every now and again. And when I do it, I like to share my experiences, or when I have conversations with friends and we have these deep emotional conversations, because I'm a Scorpio. And so beyond the reputation for being sex fiend monsters, we like to dig deep, get under the surface, and get into the nitty gritty of things and find the root cause of whatever situation may be, so we can deal with it there and let the healing and growth sprout up from there, right? So we don't just attack symptoms, we go for the root, right? Now, so let's talk about what we get from sex, like pleasure, obviously, but we touched on that in the brain chemistry briefly. Feel free to consult an actual scientist on this. I'm just here to light a spark that hopefully will send you out in the world, or with a conversation or some research, to where you can really get the full picture from someone who could be more professionally licensed, if you rather speak with someone there, or your spiritual advisor or a guru. Now, but let's see what's next. Sex is that raw intimate connection, that energy. It's like melding your spirit with another so intense that you don't need to think, calculate, or speak to be understood. You get that connection with someone that we crave as human beings, especially in a world and in an age where most of your connections with people are through your screen or a digital line or through the internet. Right, so when you actually engage with someone physically and they're hitting all the right spots, and it's like they're speaking your language mentally, and you guys are in tune to one, that itself can be very addictive, especially if you don't normally have those connections with people in your life, if you never had any sort of real intimacy, even outside of the bedroom, right? Many forms of intimacy outside of physical touch, but that in itself, excuse me, is one of the most pure expressions of connectivity we have as human beings. And it's something that's being lost more and more on an everyday basis, because especially in this age of coronavirus, people aren't even shaking hands anymore. People aren't hugging anymore, just that light casual hug, that tap on the shoulder, that reach around. People aren't even doing that anymore. So we're becoming less and less connected with each other physically. Now, in my opinion, this is an upside, because we can still connect with human beings on an invisible and intangible level, on a more empathic and telepathic and emotional connection. We do have that ability as human beings, but we're not going to get into my whole spiel of kinetics and emotional connection in just a moment, right? So yes, but okay, we got through that. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes here, so bear with me. But what else do we get out of sex? And the biggest thing I could think of, besides, like I said, that raw intimate connection, the pleasure that we get, the distraction or the escapism that we get from maybe not wanting to deal with our problems or not having enough money. Because if you notice, people in impoverished neighborhoods have a lot of children. That's because they have a lot of sex, because they don't have a lot of pleasures that people in higher tax brackets, so to speak, get, or higher social economic statuses. So at its basic level, it's free pleasure, or at least it should be, depending on how you view sex and love and intimacy and relationships. Now, but the biggest thing you also get from sex that a lot of people don't talk about, and a lot of people get for the first, this is where they get their first form of validation. Now, someone I know used to be a very sexual person. Like one day we sat down and uncovered a lot of deep-seated wounds that were emotionally traumatic. We just are having raw conversations with each other, right? And from his relationship to his family, to his past relationships with lovers, to everyday interactions with people in cultural institutions like work, school, church, etc. So he was missing that connection from all those places in his life. Like the bullet points is he was teased a lot in more ways than one, some subtle, others not so subtle, that he was weak or not very manly because of his humble and demure nature as a child. He was a poor kid, he never had the new clothes, he was supremely shy. And the saddest part is that even sometimes the authority figures in his life, the teachers and other adults, and even sometimes his own family members, some added to his disempowerment by omission or by downright being prejudiced because of, like, outside of home, his social economic status, or being seen as a lost cause because of the roots that he sprouted from. Right. And even when he tried to assert himself and try to push himself and break his own barriers, his own boundaries, he was met with criticism by family, friend, and foe. Like even down to having his basic needs met as a child from his family and his guardians: attention, structure, guidance, encouragement. All of those things, and being felt ignored by the people who were meant to love and take care of you in that time in your life and to guide you. And he was never even given the benefit of a doubt. He was just a bad kid, not rambunctious, he was always just called a bad kid. He was never given the benefit of the doubt, and he would tell me that he could see the way people looked at him. Sometimes it wasn't always what they said, it was the way they looked at him that made him feel like he wasn't worthy, right? And you get where I'm going with this, right? The bottom line is that from the time he became aware of the world disowned him and shunned every part of his being. And this was coming from all sides. Now, and mostly you hear about this happening with young girls because it's very important. And a lot of people want to protect young girls and their chastity. And I believe, trust me, protect the babies, but protect all the babies. Like, boys need that encouragement too. Girls need to be protected. Boys need to be protected and empowered and uplifted in every community, black, white, Asian, whatever. Everyone needs to be empowered, and we as black people personally need to do a better job of empowering our youth from early on. And I do see it a lot more these days. But living in a household where children are meant to be seen and not heard and not allowed to express themselves in the way they need to without ridicule or punishment is very important. And that is also some of the worst form of rejection that a child can ever have. Yes, I'm speaking from personal experience, right? Now, but then something happened. His balls dropped. His dick got bigger. He filled out in all the right places. He got tall. Like, everything happened. Like, that beard started to come in. People started to look at him. Like, they didn't sneer at him anymore when he walked by. Their eyes lit up with lust. The corners of their mouths turned up into a smile when they saw him. And finally, he felt seen and accepted. And so he went out into the world seeking the only validation he'd ever known at that point. And now we can all imagine in ways in which that could potentially fuck up his life, or, even more, or anyone's life ever more, in the paths that they took him, because those who validated him were only really objectifying him and leaving that hole within that needed to be filled with love and connection and intimacy and acceptance. It didn't fill that hole. He was still empty inside, which led to risky sexual behaviors with multiple partners, drug and alcohol abuse, shallow relationships and friendships. Like I said, even outside the bedroom, it affected every part of his life. Even when he went to work, he said he just felt like he didn't fit in anywhere. Like, the only validation he had was sex. And even though he was out there, getting it in and making people feel good and feeling good in the moment, it still was not enough for him. All right. So not until he did the work spiritually and therapeutic to heal from the pain in his childhood that he was able to move on from that and start living a better life of acceptance and abundance, because I'm sorry, I lost my notes. Because he was having sex the wrong way, with no true self of love and always seeking to be accepted from outer sources. That raw sexual energy turned destructive to almost a point of no return for him, right? So I make this video to say this: be mindful of how and why you are having sex. I embrace freedom of choice and sexual freedom and exploration. Trust me, I do. But more importantly, be sure that you are acting and engaging out of true freedom and not on impulse. What I offer is neither easy nor is it impossible. But check in with yourself. Do the work to heal. If you can relate to any of this, be honest with yourself without judgment. Pour all of that love and intention that you pour out for validation into yourself first. Fill your own cup, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. Okay, and speaking of quotes, some of my favorite quotes are, if you don't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love someone else truly? But to take it further, if you don't love yourself, who in the hell is going to love you? Think about that. Now, sex, another one of my favorite quotes, sex is nothing to be afraid or ashamed of. It is something to honor and enjoy. So in saying that, I always express the need to honor thyself. A lot of people say know thyself, master thyself, but honor thyself first and foremost. All right, treat yourself the way you want someone to treat you. Love yourself the way you need to be treated, and give yourself the same advice you would give a young person who could be out there having, risky sexual encounters. You can be a grown ass person, well into your 30s, 40s, and 50s, still doing the same fuck shit that sprouted from trauma as a child. I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it. Shit, I've done it. I've seen it. I've done it. Like, I've been there. Like, and I've seen it in other people. And you really, like, you're going to keep repeating these cycles until you get to the root problem and make a change. If you are in one of these cycles, and another point that I made in this video is not just on the individual to heal. It is up to us, as adults in this world and the growing leaders in this world who are going to take over the mantle once the system is finished crumbling and all those old races, out of date people are dead. It's up to us to echelon in a new era, and it's up to us to change the way we communicate with children. We should uplift and empower every single child. Know the difference between discipline and bullying. Like, you have to, if we want to create a healthier world, it starts with us first, but it also does start with us empowering our youth and making them feel beautiful and accepted, and making sure that, as Rashida Jones's character said in Black as Fuck, sex is not their only currency. You know, that's not the only thing that validates them. We want to do our best to love the children and everyone else the way we want to be loved ourselves. Like I said, most of all, honor thyself, raise yourself up, be your biggest support system, and you will instinctively attract those who mean nothing but the best for you. Peace and love. Allah, Ashe, Aki, Amen.